Hello and welcome back to Justin Low Stocks with another recap video. So I'll go over my last night's trades. My first trade was in BLNK. So I analysed pre-market that there was a decent support line at this 270 area. So it had held support here since about March, and then when it cracked under, it acted as resistance back in April. And then it's been fading since. It was spiking pre-market, so I was expecting it to come up to around the 270 mark and then fail. It didn't do that, but I still profited however. So I'll go to the 1 minute chart. So on the market open, as you can see here, it didn't actually open up until half an hour into the trading session. That's when it started really making some gains, but I took a little scalp at the open. So there was a high pre-market of 220, and I was expecting it, like I said, to probably reach around the 270 area, but I wasn't 100% confident that it would follow through. So I put a stop order in to buy 500 shares at the 220 mark. So if it breaks 220, I'll buy it, which it did, and then I put my sell order at 230. So I just took that 10 cents per share profit. That was my first trade, and then I'll show you the second one in a little bit. But my third trade was BLNK again. I went short here because it was starting to stay in this channel in the between the 199 and 187 mark. So I shorted it around 195, and yeah, I only took like 4 cents in it. That was a small trade. And then another trade I made in it, I shorted here at the 186 mark. So it was holding this 186 both pre-market at 928, it bounced off it, and then it was bouncing off it between 936 and 944. So I was expecting once it broke that support that it was going to crash. It only broke it by 2 cents however, and then sort of rebounded, but I was prepared to hold it as long as it was within that channel and it didn't break out of that channel. But as you can see, I probably should have drawn it, at this level here is where it broke the little channel between 199 and 187. So that's where I covered my position there. So I took that for a loss. It was a little bit irritating because as soon as I got stopped out with a loss, it then came back down, and that's where I ended up putting my profit taker, because I didn't see it break down with a lot of strength back here. So I basically wanted to stop out break even down here, but it happened a minute too late. It spiked up for that minute and then it faded for the minute, so a bit unfortunate there. I made a trade in Dare. This one was only small as well. We'll go to the, I'll show you the 1 minute while we're here. So this one opened, had a pre-market level of a pre-market high of 145, and then it made another made a lower high pre-market of 142. So this stock pre-market showed signs of a downtrend as it was making lower lows and lower highs. So I was confident if it broke this point here, which was support, sort of supported there, it was a resistance point here. If it broke this line, we would see it come down. I just wasn't patient enough, unfortunately, so I shorted it here. I missed the first entry, which is this big red candle. I missed that. It came down to 126, and I got back in when it bounced up to 131. That's where I entered short, so I wanted it to drop. It came up to 133, and I really shouldn't have stopped out. I should have set my stop a few cents over that point, maybe 135, but I set it at 133. So it came up and I stopped out, and then as you can see, only about 20 minutes later it was down to $1.18, which would have been a nice 8% profit, but I stopped out too soon, and that's a lesson for people. If you make a trading plan, just make sure you stick to it, because once the market actually opens and you start you can't help it. You start trading a little bit with emotion, but you need to do your best to stick with your plan that you had before you actually made the trade, because like I said, if I stuck to my plan and I didn't get out because I knew it would, or didn't know, I was fairly confident it was going to bounce back down off the 133 mark, I should have held it. But in hindsight, it's easy to recognize these things. And then my last trade was Yuma. So this one was my last trade, and I had to go to bed in the middle of it because I had to get up for work in the morning. So I'll take you back to the daily because that's important to see. So with this daily, you could recognize, one, it's going down, it's got a downtrend, but also the second thing to recognize is its price movements in the past. So what we have here is, as you can see, when it makes big gains, 10+% gains, it doesn't hold them. So it made gains here and then it failed. It made a gain here and it failed. It made another gain here and failed. So this stock has a history of running up through the day. Maybe just in the morning it runs, but then it turns around and it retraces half of its gains in the day later that afternoon. So I was expecting this stock to spike in the morning. Well, actually, wasn't expecting it to spike. I found that it was a pre-market spiker, and then I looked at its daily and I saw that it spikes pre-market and then it tends to fail as soon as it opens, and so that's what I was trading for. I was trading for the fail after it opened pre-market. So I found this one a little bit later on in the day, and okay, so I found it finally. So I entered in short at this point here. So as you can see, like I said, it opened here, it spiked, so it's only $1 stock when it opened, spiked up to $1.32, which is a 32% increase, and I had a good suspicion, especially when I had this big pullback, that it was most likely going to fail. So I went in short on this green candle as it was coming back up. I went short here. And I was thinking about stopping out here, but I thought, no, let it go. As long as it doesn't break the high of the day, it should turn around, which it did. It came up a little bit and then it's turned around. I wanted it to see it come down to the low ones, like 110 area. It wasn't showing much movements after I made the trade. Like, it was bouncing a little bit here and then it was getting quiet. As you can see, the volume, which is how many shares have been traded in that trading session, you can see the volume was real low. So yeah, I basically went to bed and I set my stop above this high here, because once it turned back around, I thought, oh well, that's the new lower high, so we'll risk off that resistance point, and we'll try to take profits around this area here, the low 115s, 110s. So yeah, I had my stop loss up here, profit taker down here, and I went to bed, and then checked my phone this morning when I woke up, and it actually covered like 5 o'clock this morning. It cracked down finally. It was basically no volume all day, and it cracked down here. I covered my position at $1.10, so that was a nice. I'll have a look here if it stops freezing. Had a nice, 8.5%, 9%. So that was a good trade. Just not as much volume as I would have liked to see, but nonetheless, it was a good trade. So thank you very much for tuning in to another recap. Once again, if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to follow me on my socials like Instagram or Facebook, go onto my YouTube channel page and you'll be able to get the links for that. And I shall see you tomorrow with another video. Alright, see you guys.